Hello friends, this is Vishal, and today we are going to start with the third part of lesson 2, the flower, and we are studying biology for grade 6. In the previous two parts or the previous two videos, we have studied about the structure of the flower, pollination and fertilization. And today we are going to start with the fruit. As you know, this is a reading and explanation video, so let's go ahead with this. The fruit. Let's read the text. A fruit is the ripened ovary. For most people, a fruit is a sweet, fleshy, edible plant like tomato, pea, and pumpkin are also fruits of plants, although they are commonly called vegetables. Let's understand what is a vegetable. A vegetable is any edible part of a plant, like the root, the stem, the leaf, or a fruit, which can be eaten either raw or cooked. Now, one of the common fruits that we come across is apple. Apple and pear are different kinds of fruits. They are different kinds of fruits. In these, the thalamus of the flower and not the ovary become the main fleshy part of the fruit, which we eat, while the ovary remains a small central part containing the seeds. Such fruits are known as false fruits. So, earlier in the lesson we studied that the ovary generally develops into the fleshy part of the fruit. But in some fruits, just like we saw in the case of apple and pear, we find that the ovary does not develop into the edible part. Rather, we see the thalamus has developed into the edible part of the fruit. The thalamus has developed into the edible part, whereas the ovary remains within as a non-edible part holding the seeds. So, fruits that develop from the thalamus are known as false fruits. Again, fruits that are developed not from the ovary but from the thalamus are known as false fruits. So I hope the concept of false fruits is clear by now. So have a look at this diagram here. It is a false fruit. I hope it is clear. And now we go to the parts of a fruit. When we go to the parts of a fruit, you can have a look at the diagram, and I'm sure you have understood this is a mango. A fruit contains two parts, a pericarp or fruit wall and the seed. So in between there would be a seed, and all around is the pericarp. Now we go further and we read, the pericarp or the fruit wall develops from the wall of the ovary. Because this is not a false fruit, therefore the pericarp or the fruit wall develops from the wall of the ovary. It may be thick or thin depending on the kind of the fruit. In tomatoes and papaya, it is soft and fleshy, while in gram, that is chana, it is dry. The pericarp contains three parts. So I believe in the diagram also you can see this is the pericarp, which is having three parts. If it's clear, I hope. Epicarp. Right on the outer side is epicarp, then in between is the mesocarp, which probably is your favorite, the pulp, and then comes inside the endocarp. So let's have a look here. The epicarp, the outer thin protective covering of the fruit is called epicarp. The outer thin protective covering. Generally it may have, we may call it as the chilka of a fruit, we say. So we can call it the outer side that we actually sometimes we don't eat. So that is epicarp. The outer thin protective covering of the fruit is known as epicarp. So we may generally peel the epicarp in most of the cases when we find it not edible, but in some cases the epicarp is edible as well. Then we come mesocarp. This is the fleshy and the sweet edible middle layer is the mesocarp, and the outer one is endocarp, and endocarp is the inner hard part of the fruit that contains the seed. So endocarp is the part of the fruit that is closest to the seed. Okay, so we came to know the fruit is made up of two parts, pericarp and then the seed within. Then if we look, the pericarp is also divided into three parts, that is epicarp right on the outside, the peel of the fruit we can say, then in between the fleshy and sweet part which is the mesocarp, which is also the edible part in most of the fruits, and then we come to the endocarp, which is the innermost hard part, and it contains the seed. So I hope it's clear by now. Then we go further. Fleshy fruits and dry fruits. There is a classification of fruits as fleshy and dry. So a fleshy fruit is a one in which the entire pericarp is soft and fleshy. For example, grapes, tomato, papaya, etc. In the case of mango, cherry or plum, the epicarp and mesocarp are fleshy, are pulpy, but endocarp is hard and encloses the seed. So we have fleshy fruits are in which the entire pericarp is soft and fleshy. Best example is grapes and tomato and papaya. Okay, then we come to dry fruits. Now in a dry fruit, the pericarp is not pulpy and encloses the seed. It in the pea pod, if you see in pea pod, which is mutter, the pod is the pericarp and the pea is the seed, which is enclosed within. In walnut, akhroot, the hard shell is the pericarp enclosing the edible walnut seed. So where the pericarp is not pulpy and it encloses the seed, such are known as dry fruit. So dry fruit are where the pericarp is not pulpy, and when the pericarp is pulpy, soft and fleshy, we call it a fleshy fruit. So it all depends on the pericarp. If the pericarp is soft and fleshy, we may call it fleshy fruits, and in case it is not, it is hard and it is enclosing the seed, then we call it a dry fruit. And the best example of dry fruit is walnut, and the best example of fleshy fruit is grapes. Okay, then we come to functions of fruits. So functions of fruits, apart from we finding fruits to be our favorite because we like the taste of it and we like to eat fruits, but there are certain functions that we have to see. The first function, it protects the seeds from the unfavorable environmental condition. As you know, the seed is in the middle of the fruit. The fruit holds the seed, so it actually protects the seed from unfavorable environmental conditions, any conditions that can destroy the seed or lead the seed from losing its ability to develop into a new plant. So it will keep the seed intact so that it will be available for germination whenever it gets a suitable environment. Fruits store food inside them. Now we know that fruits definitely store the food inside them, and it is this stored food that makes it fleshy and edible, and we like to eat it because of the food inside the fruit. Then fruit helps in dispersal of the seed present inside them and facilitate their germination. So food definitely helps in the dispersal. Dispersal means spreading of the seed. The seed, making sure the seeds are spread out far from its parent plant, and so that there is no competition among the plants. If all the seeds fall just below the plant where the plant is there, the seeds fall there and they all start germinating around the plant. Slowly that full place, that full area will be filled with the same plant. All the roots and everything will get jumbled up, and their leaves will not get proper exposure to sun. There will be a lot of competition among these plants for their nutrition and the sunlight, and it will be difficult for their survival and healthy growth. Therefore, it is very important that the seeds are dispersed, or they are spread far from the parent plant where they fall and germinate, so that a new plant comes at a distance from the parent plant, and there will be no competition for nutrients and sunlight, and there will be a good chance of survival and a healthy growth of the plant. Okay, so The fruit helps in the dispersal. Okay. Then we come to the next part, which is seed. The ovules after fertilization develop into seeds. Hence, a seed is defined as a fertilized ovule. So, a seed is defined as a fertilized ovule. So, what is a seed? A seed is a fertilized ovule. And the ovule after fertilization only develops into a seed. Okay, so now we know what is a seed. It's a fertilized ovule. Now we go and have a quick look at this particular diagram as well, the parts of a germinating bean seed here. When you see this part here, a germinating bean seed, we find these two cotyledons, the early leaves of the seed, that these are cotyledons, and then you see this embryo. The embryo is now divided into radicle and plumule. And this radicle will go ahead and develop the roots, and this plumule will grow up and make the shoot. So this will grow below the soil, and this will go above the soil and grow. And then later on, these cotyledons, when they have done their work, they will dry up, and new leaves will come out, and new branches will come out, and this will grow up into a big tree with its own time. Now we find here, so radicle and plumule, part of the embryo. Plumule forms the shoot, radicle forms the root. Now let's look at types of the seeds. There are two types of seeds. These are dicotyledon seeds and monocotyledon seeds. Now I believe you understood dicotyledon by the early, there will be two, di means two, okay, two cotyledons, and cotyledons are the ones that we call as the first early two leaves for the seed. So they will be green in color, and before the leaves can develop, even before the leaves can develop, these two cotyledons will open up and they'll be green in color. They will do the photosynthesis and provide the food to the sunlight for the germinating seed, and then slowly leaves will come up, and then there will be no need for the cotyledon as the tree grows. So the very first leaves function is done by the cotyledon in the case of dicotyledon seeds. Some seeds, like those of pea, bean, when opened, show two thick parts or seed leaves known as cotyledons. So we came to know seed leaves are cotyledons. The seed with two cotyledons is known as dicotyledonous. That means having two cotyledons. And this one of the example is bean, and their example is pea. Alright, now some seeds have only one leaf, such as in maize. Such seeds with only one cotyledon are known as monocotyledonous, and that means single cotyledon. Okay, so dicotyledonous and monocotyledonous we came to know. And the example of dicotyledonous means the example is pea, mutton, and the example of monocotyledon is maize. Okay, and what are these? These are the early leaves for the seed. If there are two leaves, we call it dicotyledon. If there's only one leaf, we call it monocotyledon. I hope that makes it very easy here. Let's also have a look at this table that gives us a big difference between bean seed and the maize seed. Now, bean seed, as we came to know, is a dicotyledon seed, and maize is a monocotyledonous seed. Now it's very easy. The first point of difference gives it very easily there. Dicot seed and monocot seed. Further we have a look, and then that gets interesting now. Endosperm generally is a structure or a part of the seed that actually stores food for the seed. So endosperm generally stores food for the seed, and there is no endosperm in the bean seed. Okay, so where is the food stored? Have a look at point 3 under bean seed. Okay, so since there is no endosperm, or endosperm is absent in the bean seed, the work of, or the function of storing food is done by the cotyledon. Okay, so that clears it. No endosperm, so cotyledon store the food in the dicot seed. Let's have a look here against the bean seed. Let's see in the maize seed. In the maize seed, endosperm is present. Oh, fantastic. So in the monocot seed, endosperm is present and the food is also stored in the endosperm. Since endosperm is present, it will do its function. Its function is to store food for the seed. So endosperm is present in the monocot seed and it stores food. Can I repeat the sentence for you? Endosperm is present in the monocot seed and it stores food. Now, in dicot seed, endosperm is absent, therefore the food is stored in the cotyledons. I hope it is clear. It's fantastic. Then we come to know that in bean seeds or the dicot seeds, the embryo is large. Comparatively, when we have a look at the monocot seed, the embryo is small. So embryo is small in maize seeds, whereas embryos are large in the bean seed, that means dicot seeds. Last one here. Seed is contained separately in a fruit. So seed is contained separately in a dicot seed. So when seed is contained separately in a fruit. So when we cut this fruit, we have a look, we find that the seed is separately kept there. But when we go into and have a look into the monocot, we find the seed coat and the fruit walls are fused to form a grain. So here it is very difficult to find the separation of the fruit from the seed, because the seed coat and the fruit wall are fused. Fused means they are connected, they are joined. They are so joined, they are so fused that we cannot find any separation between the seed and the fruit, because the seed coat and the fruit wall are fused. Whereas here we can find a distinctive separation in the case of a dicot seed, because the seed is contained separately in a fruit. So I believe this entire difference makes it quite easy for us, that how does a bean seed and a maize seed, how they are different, because one is a dicot and the later one is a monocot seed. Let's have a look at the diagrams as well. Here we see this is a bean seed. Have a look at the diagram here. It's very easy. You can see I hope that's not a problem. And there comparatively have a look at the maize seed here. So I'll just hold it here for you a little. You can see the difference yourself. Yes. Great. Let's have a look at the text here. Okay. Yeah. The bean seed is protected by a thin greenish outermost covering called the seed coat. It protects the seed from insects and bacteria as well as from mechanical injury. So a seed coat is there. That what is the function of seed coat? It protects the seed from the insects and bacteria as well as from any mechanical injury. The seed coat is made up of two parts. The outer part is the testa. Here we come to know the outer part is the testa and the inner part is the tegmen, which is a thin membrane that lies under the testa. Okay, so seed coat is made of testa and tegmen. We came to know about that. On the inner concave side of the seed, there is a scar called the hilum. So there's a inner little notch or inner part here that is known as the hilum area, which marked the place where the seed was attached to the fruit wall. So wherever the seed was attached, now there is a hilum there. Above the hilum is a small pore or a small opening passage, which is known as the micropyle, and the micropyle absorbs and allows the entry of as much water as required for germination. So here we find there is a micropyle here, which helps in absorbing water for germination. And then we go to, on removing the testa and the tegmen from a soaked bean seed, you will find that the seed is made up of two fleshy seed leaves called the cotyledon. They contain stored food material which are used by the seedlings for growth. Now, what we eat as washed pulses like pea and gram are actually the cotyledons of their seeds. So We came to know in gram and pea what we actually eat, what is edible, is actually the cotyledons. In between the two cotyledons is located a delicate embryo which consists of radicle and plumule. The radicle develops into a root and the plumule develops into a shoot, which I've already told you. So let's go further with the maize grain here. It's a monocot seed, which you already know. The maize grain has only one cotyledon, therefore we call it monocot. Now, cut open the soaked maize grain through the middle and study its one half as shown here, already done for you in figure 2.10. Here itself we can see how it's been cut. The maize grain is almost triangular in shape. The lower end of the grain is yellowish white in color, whereas the upper broad part is dark yellow in color. The seed coat of the maize grain is fused with the pericarp or the fruit wall. This is a thin membranous layer and forms the outermost part. The upper larger part of the maize grain is called the endosperm, and we know by now that the endosperm stores food in the form of starch and surrounds this protein-rich layer is called the aileron layer. So here we came to know this is the surrounding layer is the aileron layer, and here is the endosperm, the entire endosperm here. We came to know about the cotyledon here. This is the plumule and this is here the radicle here. So since it has only one cotyledon, we call it as a monocot seed, and here we came to know how a monocot seed is present, and the difference we have already looked at very clearly. Here we see the difference between a maize seed and a bean seed, and I believe we also looked at the difference here as well. So today in this we have covered we have covered fruit and we have covered seed. In the next video we will be starting with germination. I hope you liked this video. Please go through this video with your book in case you have the book. Keep in touch with your studies. Be safe, be smart. God bless you and thank you.